On the 8th Sunday of Christmas, Sharon shared with me an impossible box. 4 of them. We'll only create 1 tonight, but I did make 4 of them so you could see that no matter what your papers, they all look great. This one uses the Sweet Christmas collection, so the candy cane dies and the paper. And this one uses the Boughs of Holly paper and the Leaves of Holly dies. And this one uses the Kindness Gnomes stamp set and dies and the Storybook Gnomes Designer Series paper. This one uses the Holly paper as well, except I've used a punch, the evergreen punch that is in the annual catalog, to go with a circle and just a simple greeting. Now, 2 years ago, I shared something similar, and it held a Bath and Body Works hand sanitizer. Now that we're kind of through COVID, I know it's still around, but now that it's being treated more like the flu, it's still winter, and so I thought a nice little gift of hand moisturizer would be great. I found this at the Dollar Tree, which is really the $1.25 tree because everything is $1.25 now. So that fits nicely in there. Let's see, there's another one in here. I also found this one at the Dollar Tree, Utterly Smooth Hand Cream. And that one fits in nicely. They're almost the same size. So Julie DiMatteo is the one that I got this impossible box idea from. But I've changed up the measurements to fit what I found at our local Dollar Tree. Now, what makes this an impossible box? Because it's impossible to take the lid off the box. See, what happens is when you open it up, like magic, the top opens. And then when you close it, it just looks like a regular box top. How cool is that? It's not only cool, but it's really a lot simpler to make than you might think. Let's see how to do it. We are going to begin with a piece of balmy blue cardstock that measures 7.5 by 8 3/4. Bring in our Simply Scored tool. And on the short end, have the short end at the top, you're going to take your stylus, and you can use the smaller one because we are using cardstock. If you're using Designer Series paper, then go ahead and use the larger one. We'll score at 2 1/4 inches. Again, these measurements will be on my blog. 3.5, 5 3/4, and 7. So again, that's 2 1/4, 3.5, 5 3/4, and 7. We will rotate it 90 degrees so that the long edge is at the top, and we will score at 1 1/4, 6 1/4, and now we're going to flip it, still long edge at the top, just on the opposite side, and score at 6 7/8 and 7 1/2. We are flipping it because we will be folding the opposite way of the first 2 score lines. So that's why we flipped it. We're going to flip it back and rotate it back. So we've got the three lines up at the top here. And we will fold on the second horizontal line toward us. So you should see a bump there. That's called a mountain. And you always fold the opposite of what you think with cardstock. So when you see a dent or a valley, you fold away from you. If you see a mountain, you fold it toward you. I'm gonna give that a nice little press. Now with that second fold up at the top, you're going to just make some little tick marks So at 5/8 of an inch, just on the very edge, 2 7/8, 4 1/8, and 6 3/8. What you'll notice is that these little tick marks fall 5/8 of an inch from a previous score line. All right, we are done scoring. We can remove our scoreboard. Now with it still folded, I'm going to turn it so that the fold's toward me. And starting at this rightmost tick mark, I'm going to cut up to where it meets the edge of the paper and that horizontal line. On this vertical mark, I'm going to cut up to that first line, and then at the tick mark, I'm going to cut over toward it. So just the same thing we just did, it's only in the middle here. And I missed the score line a little bit there, so I'm gonna just make that a little bit further here. There we go. This is a vertical line. I'm going to cut right up on it, right to that score line. And then at the tick mark, I'm going to cut over to where I just ended. Vertical line, cut up, tick mark, cut over. And this last little square here, we're going to cut completely off. But I'm going to miter this a little bit. So I'm just going to take a little bit of an edge off there, so it's not quite a 90-degree angle there. I'm going to rotate it. So now that the fold is at the top, I can see on the bottom I've got a bunch of rectangles or squares. This skinny rectangle over here is going to get cut off, and we'll miter this because this is the tab that's going to adhere to the other side to form our box. Vertical line, I'm going to cut up to that score line, and these small flaps, the ones that are square, they get mitered. We're just going to take a little bit off. That helps make sure we have a clean edge at the bottom when we're making our box. Vertical line, I cut up. And again, this is the square, so I don't touch the rectangles. I just touch the square and I miter it. Vertical line, miter on the side of the square. And that is all our cutting. Now what we're going to do is fold, put nice creases in our box. So when you open it back up, I see that this is a bump. It's a mountain fold line. So I'm going to fold it towards me and burnish it. So this one went towards me and this one went towards me. And I see that this is a divot, it's an indentation, as is this one. So they get folded the other way. And again, you want to make nice creases. So when you're done, you have something that looks kind of like this from that view. All right, now I have score lines going the other way. So the first thing I'm going to do though is I'm going to just fold down on this first line the way it wants to go. Right? Now I can see these divots in here. These are the ones I'm going to pay attention to, not these, because they go the opposite way. I'm going to flip it over and score because I want to score away from the bump. Okay, I want to fold into the bump, into the mountain. And you've got a double thickness up here, so make sure you get a really good burnish on this end. That'll help make the box work a little bit better. We have folded and burnished on all the sides. I'm going to bring in my tear and tape, and I like tear and tape for this tab because it's a nice big tab. We'll burnish that. I'm going to take your pick tool and just remove the backing. And here's a really cool trick. Because you made nice score lines and burnished them, you can fold this right in half and you've got a really beautiful seam. For the other flaps that I need to adhere, you could have used tear and tape, but I like using the green glue because it allows you some wiggle room. We didn't need the wiggle room on that other tab because it went together perfectly. But here, now I need to pay attention. So this little flap right here, that's on the back side of the box. So I want to fold in the flaps, fold in the back side of the box, and then I'm going to fold in the front. And here's where I'm squaring it up. I'm making sure those rectangles are nicely on top of each other. I will flip it over and stick my bone folder or ruler or something inside just to press down to make sure that that's adhered. The green glue doesn't take too long to set up. Now we have this little tab right here. Just needs a little bit of glue on it. You don't want to overdo it. And it gets tucked right in there. And you're going to press it together. And I like to bring the box top down as far as I can go first so I can get the best seam there, and it reinforces it a little bit because it's further on down. You'll probably get this little piece right here. You can either cut that off or you can leave it. It's on the back side of the box anyway. But now just go ahead and open and close the box top a little bit just to help get that action going a little bit and help that box open and close smoothly. Because when somebody goes to take off the top, they want to be able to pull it up and see that it actually moves and it's not just a trick box that doesn't open. So that is our box. Let's decorate it. I'm going to bring in my Storybook Gnomes Designer Series paper, and I have this sheet, and I'm going to use this sheet as well. But there are all sorts of great wintry patterns in here. Trees and snowflakes, and of course gnomes in wintry kind of modes. Let's see. I'm going to also bring out this sheet of gnomes. And I get to pick out the gnome that I want to use. I'm going to use this one down here. I'm going to die cut him out, so I'm just doing a rough cut right now. All right, so I can put that away. For the panel that goes right here and on the back, you want one that measures 3.5 by 2 inches. I'm going to use this piece of paper, or this pattern, for here. So I want this to be 3 inches, and I want my larger stars, or whatever they are, to go left to right. So I want this thickness, or this width, to be 3.5. I'll bring in my paper trimmer. And remember, I want my pattern to go across like this. So I'm cutting on this angle. Sorry, let me turn it around. 3.5 inches. Now I need a 2-inch wide piece here, a 1 inch on this side, 2 inches and 1 inch. So I really only need 6 inches. I need one that's 2 inches. So 6 minus 2 is 4. Another one that's 2 inches. And then I need 2 1-inch pieces. That's going to be for the bottom portion of our box. Let me set that aside. Let me bring in this pattern. I'm going to put that along the top. And those are all, they're 1 inch tall. And then again, I need 2 inches, 1 inch, 2 inch, 1 inch. So they are 1 inch tall. Oops, I moved my paper there. And let me see, I need 6 inches here too. So I need a 2. So 6 minus 2 is 4. I need another 2. And then I need 2 1 inch pieces. Now we're ready to adhere to our box. I'm going to use green glue. Again, I love the wiggle room that this affords me. In case I don't get it laid down exactly right to begin with, like just happened. Maybe I can slide it around a little bit to get it positioned just right. And then I want another one on the side. And for this particular pattern, I'm going to try to match it up with the front. So this is a little bit closer to the top. So I'm going to make sure that's the direction the pattern is going here too. And the same thing on the back. And I peek around the side to make sure that it's about the same height. I need to poke a little piece of glue right under here so that it doesn't stick out. There we go. And then one more. And we want the stars or snowflakes or whatever they are to go this way. Okay, so there we have that. Now, while I'm over here, I might as well put my edges on. And these snowflakes don't really have a direction. I love this snowflake paper. I think it's beautiful. Oop, this is a 1 inch one, so this goes on the side. You don't have to decorate the lid. I'm just choosing to. Now the question is, which of these do I prefer? I like the darker one. I like the contrast. So I'm going to make sure that the contrast goes on the front. So I'll put this one on the back. And this one will go on the front. And there's a cat here. Removed. That's not the gift I'm giving this holiday season. All right, so that's done. Now I want to add a little character to this. I'm going to bring in my gnome and I'm going to die cut him. So I will be right back. So here we have the die cut gnome, and he's going to go right on the front of this box. Bring in some dimensionals here and put a couple of them on the back. Now I could put him directly there, or let me try something else. Let me take this Label Me Lovely punch, and I'm going to punch that out of Balmy Blue. Let me see how I like this. First of all, that label happens to go very nicely right there. And then I could put him on here. So I'm just going to lay him down easily right now to see, okay, do I like him on the Balmy Blue, or is he okay just directly on here? I think either one. I think I'm going to go with just leave it blank. Just put him there. So cute little box. You can make a tag for it. You could stamp a greeting. Maybe let's go ahead. Oh, I can't stamp a greeting now because the box it has a little bit too much give, but I could create something. All right, I'm bringing in a scrap piece of Balmy Blue, and I'm bringing in my Night of Navy ink pad. I'm taking the Merry Christmas and Happy New Year that is from the Kindness Gnomes set. And just stamping it on there. And I think this just fits across the bottom of the box. It does. So I will put my adhesive along the back. Make sure that's centered. Stick that across there. This is way easier than trying to get it centered in the first place. And then use the edges of the box to help me cut a straight line. And then we've got our little greeting that goes on our box. If you want, you can dress it up with some sparkles. Kind of depends who you're giving it to, probably. But let's go ahead and dress it up. And I like the clear rhinestones for this simply because it looks a little bit more like snow and ice to me. Now we just need to bring in our hand cream. And there we go. This fits nice. It's a nice tight fit. Won't wiggle around too much. This one is a slightly different size, just a little bit shorter, but also fits in nicely. Both were at the $1.25 store. Hope you enjoyed it. And this was your 8th Sunday of Christmas.